looking for gold.
Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Cary and Keegan's Movie Swap. I'm Cary Edwards, and after all, nobody's perfect. With me, of course, is Keegan Nuttall Cartwright. Hey, Keegan.
Hello, Cary. I'm back again.
You are.
Sugar, do. Oh, honey, do.
Oh my God, that's a throwback to previous episodes. So, for those of you who cursed enough to watch more than one of these, we had the Dirty Puppet special, and I demanded better movies for this episode. And as my movie, I chose the 1960 classic, The Apartment. What did you choose?
I picked the cult classic 1986 Manhunter, the first appearance of one Hannibal the Cannibal Lecter.
Although it's spelled differently.
Yeah, Lecter.
Yeah, with a K. Now, you may think at home that there's nothing in common between these two movies, but actually, as we were thinking about them, we thought, well, they're both auteur movies, directed by famous men. They're both movies about identity and loneliness and broken mirrors. So, yes, they do have things in common. And don't forget, if you're watching, to like and subscribe, please. And maybe leave a positive comment. We'd like that too. What should we do first? Which one?
We'll do Manhunter.
We're going to do Manhunter first. We're going to go backwards in time then. So we'll start with Manhunter. Why Manhunter?
Well. You went to me, Keegan. I've not seen Manhunter in 30 years, and I'm a fan of Michael Mann myself. I love Heat. I love Thief. You know, he's kind of a guy who's like always been stuck in like this crime genre, subgenre, even though he did like Last Mohicans and The Keep. Anyone remember The Keep?
Yeah, I remember.
We do.
Keep's a wild ride, actually.
I know, it's a messy film, but deserves to be talked about maybe at some point in a future episode.
Yeah, probably. Is this a good movie?
I think this is an excellent movie for me. I love about it the look, the style, the tone. It's pretty much, police procedural movie before like Lambs came along, and stole its thunder. Because then after that we got like The Bone Collector, Kiss the Girls, Seven.
It's a very different movie to Silence of the Lambs, and in really interesting ways. Do you prefer this?
Do you know what? I love this movie. I do think Lambs is a tad bit the better movie because it does have a more satisfying climax, and I find Starling a bit more of a character to get along because she is like your audience surrogate.
Yeah,
she's
sure.
Climbing the ranks. She's like, we're kind of like her, like getting into her POV, and POV is a very important part of Lambs than it is in Manhunter.
See, I find the relentless POV in Lambs quite awkward and unpleasant.
But it is supposed to be.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Starling, and
yes,
she's a woman in a man's world, and she's talking to like Lecter, and you get these uncomfortable moments of like between these two characters who are just sharing themselves to each other, information, background stories.
Sell our audience on Manhunter.
Well,
why should they be watching this film?
Well, if anyone doesn't know, Manhunter is an adaptation of the 1981 novel Red Dragon, which follows prolific FBI investigator Will Graham as he hunts down the Tooth Fairy. Literally.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's
just
pretty
pretty much it. It stars William Peterson, who some of you may know from To Live and Die in LA, which I came out the year before. But also CSI. And of course, he gets CSI because of this, really.
Yeah, he's kind of one of those does a movie every now and then.
It's got a stacked cast, actually. We've got Dennis Farina. Love Dennis Farina.
Cousin Avi, for anyone who doesn't know who that is.
Yeah, Jonah Allen, who turns up in the Bourne movies later on.
Pretty much. Brian Cox himself.
As Lecter. Very different Hannibal Lecter.
Very, very different. It's such a stark contrast to what Hopkins is doing, and we'll probably talk about what Cox brings to this, despite the screen time he gets.
We'll definitely talk about that. And Tom Noonan as the Tooth Fairy, who recently passed and is very interesting in this movie. It is one of the most 1980s movies.
Oh, it is.
I have ever seen. There's some silk shirts and some of the worst jackets I've ever seen in cinema.
And it's also got one of the most 80st montages to an ending movie ever. We're going to spoil this, guys.
Yeah,
so if you want to check this movie
out,
check the movie out, and then come
like
back to us. Yeah, but it has one of the most 80s songs ever. That was also used in Miami Vice. It also comes with a freeze frame as well.
And Michael Mann, of course, did Miami Vice. And he did
We also got Kim Grist, who was Molly Graham. She was in Miami Vice as well.
Was she?
Yes.
She's in Brazil too, which is a terrific movie. I was actually surprised in many respects how restrained this movie is. I remember it being a much bloodier film than it is.
I think that's everybody's perspective with this and Lambs. Like, they think of it as these big gore fests, but the gore is very tame, and like most of it is off screen, more suggested. In Lambs, of course, you have that big sequence with Charles Napier getting whacked a dozen times on a baton.
You don't really get that.
In this movie,
is more of a procedural. This is about the forensics and the science and the profile.
And at the time this came out, this was all relatively new. Mann talks in his commentary about how, like, terms like serial killer wasn't really in the norm, profiling wasn't really in the norm. So to hear these like terms used in a kind of a mainstream movie like this is very eye-opening. Especially with like the opening scene when he goes to Lee's house and he's using all this police terminology that you would never hear in a movie like this.
Yeah, and it didn't make any concessions. It just throws you in there. And what do I think? I like this movie and I don't love it. I respect this movie, but I wouldn't take it home, to coin a metaphor. And I think there's several reasons. One is Peterson. I think it's a very good performance, but it's a difficult character to like. Peterson plays the main character, Will Graham, and he is a traumatized character. I think that's fair. He's had a previous problem with Hannibal Lecter that left him sort of stabbed and scarred, both physically and mentally. And his performance for the first 2/3 of the movie is so awkward. I find him quite difficult to connect with. I don't know what your take is.
Because he's kind of like the reluctant hero. He's kind of like Vincent Hanna, in which, like, you know, he has his family life and his, you know, his job, his life and his job, and he's kind of pulled back into the rain because Jack Crawford comes along and goes, "I wouldn't be asking you this if you didn't have this like skill that you had," and of course that takes a toll on him. And I think that's what builds into the performance, because a lot of it is internally. It kind of contrasts well with Noonan's performance, where
it does.
A lot of what they're selling is what's built inside the heads. Like, we don't get inside. We don't. Graham and Dolarhyde don't allow us to get into their psyche. It's all internal. They're both wonderful performances.
That's Dolarhyde is Noonan's character. The Tooth Fairy, the killer,
who's wonderfully built up. Like, through
he's really interesting.
Like in the police procedural, there's a police procedural series where you get the markings of his teeth, like, because they've taken like a little thing, and they're just showing how it works. You get like the hands, and he doesn't pop up actually in this movie until 56 minutes to an hour.
It takes
in.
a long time to get
very,
to him.
very long time.
Very restrained, which might be, I say, a flaw in the movie. Might be an issue with it for some members of the audience, because you spend a lot of time with Peterson. And like I say, it's quite an awkward performance, except in the third act where he transforms. I'm sure we'll talk about that. Visually, really interesting direction.
Yeah, in production design as well. Like, there's a lot of white in this. There's a lot of ordinary looking rooms. I'm just thinking back to like Lecter's cell, where it's all sterile and like white looking. Then you got Chilton's office, who is a character in this film.
Yes,
and
very
his
different.
His lamp's white, his stapler is white, his phone's white. Like, we're saying something with that.
Yeah, there's something very antiseptic, very plain. The lighting's quite stark as well, very often.
Yeah, and we sometimes use that to like show like a character's POV. Like, you get Graham, like that scene earlier on when he's on the plane and he's dreaming.
Yes.
You know, about like kind of like the perfect life that he wants. Like, he's on a boat, he's with Kevin, he's with Molly, and he's like dreaming like the life that he wants to have once this whole deal's over. And of course you have the interruption where the pictures are like outside and the girl like sees it and went, "What are you looking at anyway?"
Yeah, I read somewhere that they guerrilla filmed that on the plane.
They did. They wouldn't allow them to shoot it, so they just all booked a plane to Chicago, to wherever, and they just took a lot of equipment, like scaled down, and just shot the sequence.
That's great. I love that stuff. It's interesting because there's a lot of thematic richness in this movie, particularly the paralleling between the two characters. And the idea that I think that comes out that Graham is only really alive when he's investigating. And that third act, he becomes a much more vibrant character. There's a really good shot I just want to talk about, where he's in a diner and he's looking through the window. It's raining. And he's kind of talking to the Tooth Fairy, but he's clearly talking to himself. Where he says,
medium shot
"It's just you and me, sport.
Yes.
I'm going to find you, goddammit."
That's the medium shot when he got Will Graham's theme blurring over, and he goes, "I'm sorry too." He goes, "Coffee." Yeah, coffee. Yeah, he's just in the moment. Like,
it is. It's definitely a moment where he's talking about finding himself, which parallels the killer, who is got this idea of becoming. He's trying to become something more than he is. Something inspired by William Blake's drawing or painting of the Red Dragon. Yeah,
which surprisingly, They originally, during shooting, they shot it with the tattoo because the big thing about Dolarhyde is he had the tattoo on his chest. You can see on the Blu-ray cover, it's there. They shot it for a couple of hours. And then Mann decided that trivialized the struggle that he was going through a bit too much, and they just gutted it. And it feels like, I don't know, that's part of the iconography.
It is, and they don't. It's there, the Blake, and I mean, Blake's work is really interesting. And it sort of skips over that bit of his motivation a bit, which is a shame.
Yeah, the theatrical cut has that point where Graham talks about, I can imagine what this kid was like. He was a battered and bruised kid.
Yeah.
And he profiles him, like, going like...
Oh, well, yeah.
But then, as a grown-up man, I just want to kill the bastard, you know, like... I empathise with this kid, but as a grown adult, his actions are inexcusable. Yeah,
so it's really interesting. And I think it's quite a groundbreaking movie in the forensics and stuff. Do you like the framing? Because sometimes... if I'm honest, I found it quite annoyingly artsy in a way of, I'm going to put the camera just behind something so you can't quite see stuff.
Yeah, because we have that with Lecter's introduction, like when he goes into the cell and Cox, you don't, it's not a grandiose like introduction like in Lambs.
At all.
He's literally covered by the locks on his cell, and it's shot in like a, you know, two-shot, medium shot,
very simple.
B shot.
Very small.
I love the artsiness of this. Yeah. That's the pretentiousness coming out of me. Like
it is. Yeah.
It plays with the POV idea that I'm getting at, because you get this moment with Reba, who played by Joan Allen. Her and Dolarhyde spend the night together, and he goes to see her again. It's one of the few times we see Dolarhyde smile in the entire film. Yeah. The other being before he chews on Freddie Lowndes' corpse.
Reba, Joan Allen's good. Her character's blind, which is interesting. When you think about how Dolarhyde looks and all those sorts of things. Yeah, because
he thinks himself as a monster.
I remember watching it. I watched the theatrical cut, and I don't know if it's different in the extended directors. But I'm just like looking at a character thinking, well, you're just getting a car with any man you just met. And go to... It's a beautiful scene when she goes to the vets and there's this...
Oh, I love that.
The tiger asleep, and then she gets to touch it. But it's just like, this strange man has just invited you out, and you've no idea where you're going. You have victim written all over you.
Of course, you got the guy who he sees on the night before he ultimately shoots. She must get asked about by everybody at Gateway, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's one of my big flaws with the film, because I like their chemistry.
Oh, and the performances are great, but...
be into him because of she's blind, she can't see what his face is like. Of course, she does the old blind. Can I touch your face? I want to see what you're feeling, and that's all wonderful. She's wonderful playing blind.
It's a really good performance by her, and in the last act.
The problem is it's so rushed. It feels like a Disney romance where this all happens in a day. They meet, they have the tiger, and there's something going on with that, like Dolarhyde and the tiger.
That's a great seduction technique at home, by the way. Take your girlfriend or boyfriend or whomever to visit a sleep tiger that's been knocked out for veterinary surgery. That's amazing.
Yeah, there's something going on with like the tiger and Dolarhyde that I can't exactly pinpoint, but like...
Yeah, I mean, it's about animals and tame animals and danger, isn't it? And maybe her lack of sense of danger.
But then we cut to him later on with the Strong as I Am by the Prime Movers, and it's like... I don't know, it's kind of rushed. The scene's not wrong. It's well acted. We really get into Dolarhyde's head at that moment, because what he sees is like love and embrace, and it's all
and he's burning with jealousy.
With this bright lighting that's going on in Dante's photography, and it's wonderful. You get into his head so well. Whereas in reality, he's just picking a speck of dust on her face.
Oh yeah, but it is a really interesting moment, because we do feel or encouraged to feel where Dolarhyde is.
But the tragedy falls short because they've only been together for a day, and I think that's because we spend a lot of time with the police procedural work and the family. Kevin and Molly, like in this movie, get a bit more to do in this than in the 2002 remake, which focuses more on the relationship between Dolarhyde and Reba. Played wonderfully by Emily Watson and Ray Fiennes, but that's a different movie for another time.
It is a different movie, but it's interesting though. It's always interesting to compare two movies, adapting the same novel
by the same DP.
Yeah, really, Dante Spinotti.
Yeah, because Brett Ratner came along, saw his work in Manhunter, and went, "I want to bring that guy back." And it's very interesting to compare and contrast what this guy does visually with arguably the same material.
Yeah, very, very different to do that. I mean, there are some really good moments. I really love the guy set on fire.
Oh, Freddie
rolling
Lowndes.
down into
I have a
car
very
park. That's
awful
amazing.
comment, which is before Stephen Lang was chasing after Navi woman in Avatar: Fire and Ice, he was chasing the latest scoop.
I do like Brian Cox as Lecter. I might even prefer him. He's a more of an intelligent thug. He's greasy. he's been killing college girls. He's not been eating people's livers with fava beans.
It's a taste. It's a taste thing because Hopkins has portrayed that role 3 times, and he got Cox who plays it. He based it on a Scottish serial killer that he knew about, so it rooted in his performance. And he's got like this open mouth acting that's going on with his performance. And despite being in only 3 scenes on, I just love his performance. Operator, I don't have the use of my arms.
There's a wonderful moment where he hacks into his prison telephone, basically using lying and the foil from chewing gum. And it's terrific. It's really, really, really good. What else did I like? I really like the ending. There's a bit too much overlapping editing and freeze framing and stuff in the final fight.
The big thing I hear about the ending,
it does explode at the end in a quite a satisfying way. When he jumps through that window and it matches the beat of the song, I'm there for that.
Which is In a Garden of Eden by Ron Butterfly, for all you Simpsons fans out there.
It is. I did think of the Simpsons watching it as well.
I've got another Simpsons joke in a minute, but we'll
get back to that.
But the shootout's not bad in concept. It's just, I wish we kind of had a confrontation between these two guys.
It does feel maybe a little rushed.
Yeah, and it's full of like jump cuts and reused shots as well. There's a medium shot where Dolarhyde has got this shotgun in his arm. One hand, which should knock him back, but it's a movie.
But it's cool. Well, I accept it. He's a big enough guy to do that.
Yeah. But it's full of like jump cuts, and it feels like I'm in a 60s Bond film here. It's just not working for me.
It is, and it's slightly at odds with the rest of the movie as well. I found the really interesting because again, drawing there's keep paralleling the two of them, and the idea that Will Graham, Peterson's character, gets into the mind of the serial killer, and of course at the end he approaches this house from the back garden, creeping through the garden, which is exactly what Dolarhyde has been doing.
Yeah, because he's
to the victims he murders.
He's been searching like in big houses with locks on. There's that moment early on where he's like on the tree, and he's like, "When you carved yourself in, you cut the branch."
What do you think of that? Because Peterson he narrates, but you see him. It's not a voiceover. He talks to himself. It's a little odd.
I think it's like a John MacLaine thing, because John MacLaine does that in Die Hard, but he does it in like a Moments of Panic. Like some people do that.
Sort of like
it's a habit.
Tension. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because some people say that's like a lazy form of screenwriting, but I think when you haven't got a character like William Peterson who spends a lot of his time by himself, not having someone to talk to,
that's usually why you give them the Dr. Watson character, so they've got somebody to talk to. Whereas Peterson's on his own, which isolates him and is again a part of that paralleling. But I don't know what I thought about it. I found it odd, not necessarily bad.
Yeah, because I think as a choice, it might be an odd one, but I think to get that information out, what he's thinking, both internally and externally, you need to get that across. Yeah. Same with Dolarhyde. I haven't spoken about Tom Noonan yet, but Tom Noonan in this is wonderful. Probably a hot take. Yeah. I prefer him to what Hopkins is doing in Lambs.
Yeah, oh god, yeah.
What Ted Levine's doing as Buffalo Bill. Yeah. I just find this guy incredibly scary from the moment we see him.
That's interesting. I did find him scary. I know he's tall.
I know, because you get that moment with, staple your eyes open so you can see me. And you just get that pan up of him with his little mask on.
He wears a pair of tights.
It looks a bit goofy, but like, you contrast that voice with his tallness, and it's just like, you owe me.
There's something quite tragic, though, about his character. And there's a point where I think he curls up on Joan Allen's character, and he looks very childlike, and there's something very
he
lost
grabs
and
around,
childish.
And he's like, it's like, there's this thing that's come into my life that's contrasting with the mission that I'm on, the Red Dragon, and of course you have that moment with the pier, the swamp. He goes, trying to like be nice to her, like, and it's so contrasting watching Noonan and Allen together because he's so tall.
Yeah, he is, and she looks very delicate and stuff. Like, and of course, the stuff on the pier then, of course, parallels Peterson and his family, and they spend a lot of time by the water as well, which is really nice.
Water, turtles, and the beach.
I don't want to be mean, by the way, but the kid who plays Peterson's son is just dreadful.
He's okay.
Yeah, and that scene in the
there's the shopping mall
in the supermarket. Although I was pleased to see that they were in the cereal section next to lots of fibre, lots of brown.
The Corn Flakes.
But I remember looking at that thinking, oh god, look at not as annoying as the kid in Shane, but
he's not that bad. But I think I said I like the focus on the family. It reminded me a lot of Heat, because Heat, you got the personal life and you got the crime life, and of course that movie's about that as well. It's about a robber, and a cop, and what their lives.
And again,
like
the parallels, and so it's thematically, very similar. Heat's a lot I'm going to say Heat's a lot better than this, though, isn't it? Heat's amazing.
Heat is near perfect. It's nowhere. It's not. This is in my top 3 or 5, but it's
really?
nowhere near Heat.
It's that high?
I said, it's Manhunter, Miami Vice. You know,
it's very, very
Man's
cool.
got this interesting career. Like, he's probably made the same movie over and over again, but I like what this guy brings to it, and his dedication to his craft, the terminology, the research he goes into to making these movies.
The detail, and he spent an awful lot of time in the making of this movie with forensic people and learning. And of course, Farina, who's a lot of man's movies, was an ex-cop.
He was.
Yeah. So it has an authenticity to it, which is really, really interesting, which is then counterbalanced by this sort of overt filmmaking style, which, like, I find slightly intrusive. And it's interesting that Man drops that. Heat does not have that sort of filmmaking style.
No, it doesn't. There's no moment in Heat where there's an artistic choice, although it's backed up with some wonderful photography. Same DP as this, Dante Spinoni was deep on that, and it reminded me a lot of that, like the beaches, when you get that moment of De Niro in the dark, like backlit. There's a few moments like that in this movie where like Farina and Molly are talking, and it's like backlit beyond a beach. You got the dreamlike blues.
And there is something quite dreamy, dreamlike about some of those scenes on the beach and with his family and his wife. Like it's not real, perhaps. Yeah, but and of course he does dream of them as well. Yeah,
he does. But yes.
Do you like the soundtrack?
I like the soundtrack. It's
very synthy.
It's such an odd soundtrack.
It is
I've been listening to this soundtrack quite a lot before this episode, and it's one I always listen to. Like, I love the opening track that opens this film. It's like a haunting, like 2-3 beat.
It reminded me a bit of Blade Runner and Vangelis' work.
It's a bit of a slasher. Oh yeah, I'll tell you which one you're thinking about. It's When Will Dreams.
Yes, that sort of tonal, sort of synth sound.
But then you got the songs like "Strong as I Am." You got like the score for when like the tiger. I love this score. I listen to it quite a lot. Even the really awful song at the end that was used in Miami Vice. I'm like, it's kind of corny. It's kind of
but Miami Vice is kind of corny, and I'm a big fan. I've only seen the first season of Miami Vice. I did rewatch it, and I was too young in the 80s to watch it. And I've seen it, and sometimes it is just amazingly cool, and sometimes it's kind of really corny, and it's an interesting balance to these things. It's worth watching.
I think it's worth watching.
Like I say, I'm not sure how much I'll actually. Well, I'm interested in it. Well, I don't love it.
I know. I go back to it every couple of years. I've seen this like for the 8th or 9th time now, both for the theatrical cut and director's cut, which does offer a couple of new additions. I think the big stuff it offers is scenes with Molly, because Will Graham's on this journey to capturing this killer, and he needs that human angle to anchor him to this world that he lives in.
That would be interesting, because, like I say, the big problem I had with the movie is I find Graham Peterson's character so difficult to connect with.
Yeah, he's not.
I find it a little bit alienated. I'm not identifying with him. I'm watching him. And whereas maybe if he's got more of that human connection to his family, maybe that makes him an easier character to link to.
In that director's cut, you get like an extended scene of the police procedural scene. You get a few scenes with Molly. You get a scene at the end where Will Graham, after he beats Dolarhyde, where he visits the family that he was going to kill, and he's all battered and bruised, and that's kind of to get out of his head. And there's a couple of omissions, like the piece of information about Dolarhyde is gone. There's a moment where Will is smoking a cigarette before he goes.
There's a lot of smoking in this movie.
It's before he looks at the tape at the beginning of the film when he's going up that lift. That's gone. There's just a few omissions that are taken out, leaving in that kind of make for like the best version of this movie is probably in these both cuts.
Okay, some sort of synthesis between.
There was another scene with Chilton as well, but again, Chilton's such a non-entity in this movie.
Yeah, not like in the
in Red Dragon and Lambs, where they just got the characterization.
Do we know why they called it Manhunter and not Red Dragon?
Oh, the reason why is Dino De Laurentiis produced a movie called Year of the Dragon.
Uber producer of Conan the Barbarian and Flash Gordon and the King Kong remake.
And a future movie that we will cover on this episode, Death Wish.
Oh, yes, absolutely, Death Wish.
He thought people wouldn't understand what the term Red Dragon was, so they changed it to Manhunter. Joan Allen talked about how they were just debating about what should we call this movie if we're not going to call it Red Dragon. And they just... Cox felt it was a cheesy title anyway, Manhunter. And I love the opening credits, actually, because you get the credit based on the novel Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. And Red Dragon's underlined. So it's like, don't worry, guys. This is based on an existing book in a series.
Why would you use the existing branding and fame of the book to sell your movie? I also heard somewhere that he'd had a flop De Laurentiis with Year of the Dragon, so he
That's
didn't
the one,
like movies that said dragon.
He's like,
This flopped. This flopped quite badly, didn't it, Manhunter?
It did. It was one of those, like, didn't really make much of his money back, and it kind of made like a bit more of a splash on the tape scene, movie, TV airings, like a movie of my interest, Highlander.
Oh,
Same year, and it also came out
yeah.
to
Well, it is that
mixed
sort of cult
reviews and became a cult classic later on, and spawned a very, very interesting.
I think I watched it when it was on Movie Drome, which some people will remember. You can find Alex Cox's Movie Drome stuff on YouTube, and they're amazing. Well, look. Let's move on to my movie, which
I will get one more thing in.
Oh, go on.
Because Dan will kill me if I don't make this reference.
Please.
He's a South Park fan and a Simpsons fan, so I'll get these out of the way. There's a big South Park episode called Cartman's Incredible Gift, and in that episode they spoof the Dead Zone, Red Dragon, and there's a moment in it where the cop killer goes, I see you like cutting eyes and photos of women. My son's a big fan of that too, and that's spoofed heavily, like Red Dragon.
Great.
Do you see?
That's for Dan, who's behind the camera.
I see you like taking pieces of glass and putting them into the eyes of women.
Yeah, well, that's going to haunt my nightmares. Thanks for that. Thanks for saying that out loud. I look radically different. I said there's some thematic overlap. I was being slightly facetious at the start of the episode. I chose what I think is one of the greatest movies at the end of the studio period, The Apartment from Billy Wilder, 1960. It's an odd movie. It was kind of, and if you look at the DVD Blu-ray cover, you'd think, oh, this is a comedy.
I hate
Not
that cover so
really. There are jokes in it, and there are laughs, but there's tragedy, there's drama.
There's adultery.
There's an awful lot of adultery. It's an incredibly daring movie for 1960. For fans of film history, 1960, the production code, the censorship rules in America still exist, but people are pushing and breaking them, and this movie breaks them. It is about Jack Lemmon's character called Bud, and he, or C.C. Baxter or Bud, depending on who calls him whatever, and he loans his apartment to managers at the insurance company he works with for them to have affairs in. And he sort of ended up doing this slightly by accident.
Yeah, because he meets like a guy who needs the toilet, and somehow that word gets along that he rents his apartment out.
Yeah,
and it just
Bud,
happens.
he's a good buddy. He'll give us his apartment.
But Jed Lemmon, he's going to go around. He's going to help these executives, including Mr. Hand of Fast Times fame and My Favourite Martian.
Yes, absolutely.
Does anyone remember the show or the movie My Favourite Martian?
Nobody out there remembers this. They've never even heard of it.
Nobody remembers when Christopher Lloyd played an alien and Jeff Daniels was the straight man.
They did do a movie.
They did?
The star is Jack Lemmon. For those who don't know, Jack Lemmon was what we sometimes call an everyman. He wasn't like a hugely heroic character, a hugely handsome character. That sounds mean. But he could play an ordinary guy.
He's someone you can see yourself a lot into. And when watching this, I could see so much of myself in you. In that opening voiceover when he talks about how I work at home, I work at work, and like for a couple of hours, we don't know what's going on yet, but I do that.
Co-star Shirley MacLaine plays Miss Kubelik, the object of his affections. But sadly, he wants to date her, but she is having an affair with everybody's boss, played by Fred MacMurray. If you don't know Fred MacMurray, he was actually most famous for Disney movies. He's cast against type as a real horrible person. Apparently, he was at Disneyland after this movie came out, and some woman came up and hit him over the head with a handbag for being so foul in this film. But it's a great performance because he is sort of charming and horrible as the sort of the main bad guy.
Yeah, no, I didn't have that familiarity with him because I know.
Well, if you don't know who he is, you don't know.
Dempsey, I didn't know his star power or whatever. It's like the actors, mate. A part of an actor's role is to slip into every role that's assigned to him, and he did it quite well.
So there's loads of reasons I love this movie. One, it's widescreen black and white photography, which is really interesting.
Which is really interesting for a comedy. Like
yes, it is. Comedies tended to be.
It's the year of Psycho, which was black and white. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which was like used for horror and building suspense, and then you get this black and white comedy taking all these taboo
comedy.
Yeah, comedy.
Funny moments. It is. But Wilder as a director is an interesting director because visually, in terms of camera movements, he doesn't do a lot. Mm-hmm. He doesn't do anything wrong. He frames traditionally, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's the production design and the dialogue that makes this an amazing movie. The production design is amazing. the insurance office that Jack Lemmon works in, they built this incredible set.
It's amazing. I didn't even know it
goes on forever.
It was a studio set, and then they got a matte painting to expand it a little bit more.
Yeah, it's forced perspective.
Yes.
Big desks at the front, small desks at the back. Big people at the front, small people at the back, and then painting on the back wall to make it look like this anonymous, bland office goes on. And it's a wonderful contrast between where he works and where he lives, where he has this very homely, cluttered, beautiful apartment, the apartment of it. So visually it's stunning, but it's the dialogue. And I mean, I wrote little bits down. My favourite piece of dialogue is an incidental line of dialogue in the background where just a woman coming out of the lift talking about her a friend saying, I said to him, either get yourself a bigger car or a smaller girl. Which I just think is just like funny. It was co-written by Wilder and a guy called I.A.L. Diamond, and it's weird because they only wrote, before production started, about 20 pages. And then they spent time with the cast and wrote the rest of the movie as they went. So they had an outline.
About finished script, and they just kind of worked on as they went
Which
along.
is like the worst way to make a movie. You would never tell anybody to make a movie like this. And yet it feels like it works and is planned out and makes perfect sense.
It does. I mean, it's kind of like how we make independent movies or independent comedies, or if you're the MCU, how we make Avengers Doomsday.
Well, let's discuss. But this is Wilder and Diamond. They know what they're doing. And Wilder is part of the sort of German Jewish diaspora from the 30s that ended up in Hollywood making movies. It's a great story of for visa reasons and immigration reasons. He had to leave America briefly and go through Mexico and he's in Tijuana and he's at the border line and the guy says, why do you want to come to America? He says, I want to make movies. And the guy looks at him and says, make good movies, and stamps him and lets him. And he did. He made loads of great movies. Is this his best? Maybe. He did Some Like It Hot. He did Double Indemnity, which is brilliant.
Sunset Boulevard.
Which I'm not a big fan of. I think it's too much.
It's the only...
I find it as overripe, but it's interesting. He would go on to do a really interesting movie called The Private Lives of Sherlock Holmes. Not all of his movies are great, and anything after the 1970s is not good. But it's when you watch The Apartment, you're watching really good craftspeople on top of their game make a beautiful movie. But a tragic movie. Were you surprised by the tonal shifts?
I looked at the synopsis on the back of the Blu-ray cover, and I looked at the parental guide and said, suicide,
and it's brutal. You don't see the suicide.
And it comes in like a 70 minutes and 80 minutes in, but it works because you know these characters. You spent like 60, 70 minutes building up Jack Lemmon as this endearing character. You got Shirley MacLaine, who's wonderful, and you build up what she's
it's
like,
very
almost
early in her career,
unrecognisable.
and she is amazing.
My only other films I've seen her in are Bernie, the Richard Linklater film, and Two Meals for Sister Sarah.
Oh, yeah, she's great in that.
She's so good in that.
I do also know her from Cannonball Run too.
Yeah,
we'll move over. Also, Warren Beatty's sister, I think. Bizarrely, she is terrific, and her role is very, very difficult because she has to be cute and
she's wonderful.
Pretty. It's almost like a prototype Manic Pixie Dream Girl. But it's grounded by real sad cynicism, and there's a very famous moment which connects via broken mirrors to Red Dragon. There's not Red Dragon, Manhunter. There's loads of broken mirrors in Manhunter, which is about identity and reflections. But there's a scene where she opens up her little compact mirror, and Jack Lemmon says, it's all broken, and she says, I like it that way because it looks like it makes me look the way I feel, she says. I got it exactly. And it's just this little horrible, tragic line in quite a silly scene at an office party.
Yeah, like everybody's having a joy, and whilst that joy is going on, there's like this small hint of like tragedy and drama that's going along. Like most things in life, comedy, not comedy, but life is full of these high moments and low moments, and this movie perfectly captures that. Yeah. I was like, because I love this character. I love Lemmon, like straight up from the word go. Like brilliant. That voiceover is so affectionate. Yeah. I just love this guy's
And again,
ambitions.
voiceover, some people think it's cheap writing, but if it's done well, it's great writing.
Yeah. And sometimes you do need voiceover to get that point across, despite what some people say.
He's so funny. And Wilder was very dictatorial in some senses with his cast. If he wrote dialogue, you said it, and you said it exactly. You didn't add anything, you didn't take anything. And he let Lemmon improvise two things, and one makes me laugh out loud.
It's the singing.
It's not the singing, it's the squeeze on the cold remedy when it shoots across the room. And it's just fabulous. It's just like laugh out loud. and then singing when he's making pasta and draining his pasta through a tennis racket, and it's just wonderfully light. But the darkness of this movie is dark. I mean, this is a movie about infidelity. All these guys are having affairs left, right, and centre, and they don't care. They're just using Lemmon, and Lemmon is a lot of Yiddish. I really enjoy the sort of Yiddish used in words like schnook.
Yeah,
he's a schnook, and he is a schnook. It means gullible, and he is this, and he's. It's a great performance because he's not quite pathetic character, but he could come off as. It's like a lot of, I guess, romantic comedies. It's if he was a stronger character, there would be no movie because he would just ask her out and get it done.
He would just get stuff done. It makes that moment at the end when he's talking to his boss a bit more impactful because he grows a spine in front of his boss. Went, I'm going to lend you your key. I went, no.
Yeah,
give it now. I went, this is for the washer. Well, I won't need the washer anyway.
It's a great sort of anti-corporate movie in a sense that it's about being a mensch, as they say, a human being in the movie, rather than being this sort of corporate climber. And Lemmon's character just dreams for much of the movie of getting his own office and being an executive.
And he kind of gets that early on. Like,
they
gets his goal very, very early on. But of course, the heart of the movie is like, Shirley MacLaine, he likes this girl that he's infatuated with, which was nearly offered to Marilyn Monroe, which wouldn't have worked.
Well, there was discussion, and there's a wonderful, I don't know the actress's name, but she turns up playing a parody of Marilyn Monroe in one scene. Monroe is too much, and that's not to denigrate Shirley MacLaine, but Shirley MacLaine is a more ordinary looking woman. One of the things I also like about this movie, it's 1960s. It's a world that's disappeared. MacLaine's character, Miss Kubelik, is an elevator operator. Her job is to dress like an air hostess and push the buttons in the lift
for all the guys, the sleazy guys in this building.
Yeah, and to deal with that, and also sort of some of the clunky technology, the telex machines, the typewriters, and all these things.
I love the moment when Jack Lemmon's at his desk and you see the contacts on his finger. He's like going through looking for. I can get you in for 4 o'clock on this point.
Oh yeah,
that's
and he's
wonderful. Nowadays he'll just get his mobile phone out.
Absolutely, and it's kind of wonderful to see this analog world given such rich texture.
I even had that with Manhunter as well. When you see a fax machine,
mobile phones have ruined movies.
I know.
You can't have any tension.
I had that with we watched Mad Dog and Glory a couple of weeks when De Niro's on the jukebox. When if this was nowadays, he would get like a Beats jukebox or whatever and put it on there. Went no, ruins the scene.
No, absolutely. It's and there's some interesting use of music and a quite fun scene that makes fun of TV as well. And of course, TV was the big rival. Up and coming rival to movies at the time, and Wilder has a good go at that, which I enjoy because turns out there was nothing on in 1960 either. But yeah, it is a movie about suicide and spoilers, of course. But Miss Kubelik, she's been dumped by Sheldrake, which is Fred McMurray. She's in C.C. Baxter's Jack Lemmon's apartment, and she takes an overdose of tablets and. Lemmon's neighbour is a Jewish doctor. He gets around and they save her life. And you hear the stomach pumping in the background. And it's like, I can't believe they got away with this in 1960.
I know, pushing like the Hays Code and what you can do.
They were really...
Same with Psycho, same year, like showing a toilet in a movie, the murder. Like,
toilets, yeah. It's a cynical, in many respects, misanthropic movie, but at the end... Is it a happy ending?
It's a very open-ended. I think I got the exchange here because they talked about the make-off when they don't sugarcoat it. Yeah, they might get together in the end, but it is strongly implied they will. But it's not in like it's not like 4 weddings and a funeral where they're going to be confessing their love in a heavy rain, or they're going to be going to an airport chasing for each other's love. It's very much, shut up and deal.
Yeah, there's this joke about them playing a gin running game and. He's all over. I adore you, and she just says, "Shut up and deal." And it's an optimistic ending. It doesn't say that they're going to live happily ever after, because it's not a sort of world where that happens.
No,
but it's a world where they're going to give it a go. And
if
I think
it was more Hollywoodized, I think it would just dilute the impact of that ending.
Yeah. I think it's visually beautiful. I think the dialogue at times is incredible. I think Jack Lemmon. Who I don't know if he's a forgotten star, but he was a consistently brilliant star for 30 years, and I'm not sure he gets enough love.
Because the only other thing I've actually ever seen him in was going back to Simpsons. He was in the Simpsons episode, season 8, episode 11, The Twist World of Marv Simpson.
And the character of Gil in The Simpsons is based on his performance
I was wondering if you were going to mention
in Glengarry and Ross. a couple of years before this, he did Some Like It Hot for Billy Wilder with Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe, and he's brilliant in that. But he could do drama as well, and he did comedy. If you ever see The Great Race, not a terrific movie, but he is a prototypical Dick Dastardly.
That's one.
Because Hanna-Barbera just ripped off movies for their early cartoons, and
why not, like Flintstones?
Dick Dastardly is Jack Lemmon basically, and it's really bizarre when you watch it. Because Muttley is Peter Falk in the same movie, and that's really bizarre. Sometimes you just watch a movie and you think, I wouldn't change. There's just nothing that would make this better.
No, I was just taken aback by how smart, how clever, how subversive, how daring this movie was. I didn't know what to expect from this movie. I was just in awe of the dialogue and all that. I said, like, these sleazy men, because they can't get hotels just to get a quick.
There's a good joke about one being stuck with a Volkswagen Beetle as well, which is fun. But I was reading up on this. Apparently, at the time, hotels had detectives who would prowl the corridors, and if Hanky Panky was going on, they would get involved. So you couldn't book hotels if you're wondering why do they need this apartment.
Yeah, because I found out for the making of it. I was like, yeah, because it does make sense.
Great jazz soundtrack as well.
It is. I love the soundtrack.
It's a great jazz soundtrack. And for lovers of antiques, some nice Tiffany lamps in the background as well. And Jack Lemmon actually got punched, by the way, when the brother-in-law turns up.
Shit.
Shirley MacLaine's brother-in-law turns up. Jack Lemmon didn't turn his head at the right time, and when he gets knocked to the ground, he got knocked to the ground proper. So you get to see some real punchy violence in this.
Hopefully that didn't halt production or anything.
No, he had to get it well. They've shot in sequence because there was no script. So they had to shoot in sequence, so it didn't affect things. And one of my other favourite shots was on a real bench in New York with this hugely long bench with Jack Lemmon sat on his own, and it's just a perfect shot.
That's a perfect shot, and also demonstrates what this guy's got to go through sometimes. If his clients want the place for like another hour or two, he's got to sit out in the cold air, get a cold.
And apparently Lemmon actually got a cold.
Yeah.
It was in the script, but he got a cold too. And the little detail with and it's symbolic with the bowler hat, this stupid bowler hat he buys himself, because that's what executives wear.
I mean,
and then he takes it off right at the end and just plonks it on the head of one of the cleaners in the office, and it's
just embracing like himself. He's not trying to be anything else.
He stopped being this.
Instead of looking like John Steed or Harold Pelham from the Manhunter.
He decides to be a decent person and not one of these horrible executives. And there's just something deeply decent about this movie, deeply moral, as opposed to Meet the Feebles, which had none of this.
Hey, we have a time and place for crass, mean-spirited movies.
We do, and I have a time and place for crass, but it kind of is mean-spirited, but at the same time it's beautiful and hopeful and optimistic, and that balance is really difficult.
Yeah, because you've got these two protagonists who anchor this world of, like, not everybody's awful. There are good people in this world.
And I don't I care about Oscars, but this won 3. It deserved all of them. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay.
I never cared about accolades, but it's
sometimes though it's nice to know that a good movie actually got recognition.
I know, but then you get people who go like, The Untouchables were great because Sean Connery won an Oscar. Oh yeah, he won an Oscar for his amazing Irish accent.
Sure, she's great in that. It's great. Look, you like this movie. I like this movie. I talk about top 5 movies. This is top 5 movies. I think my daughter's one of her favourite movies as well, which is really nice because don't be put off if you're not keen on old movies from 1960s.
Like black and white. Yeah.
It doesn't feel that old. It feels timeless, I suppose. And please do not be put off by the Blu-ray cover, which is horrific.
I hated the Blu-ray cover so much. It's almost like they were
Does she even dress like that?
No.
She never dresses like that in the movie.
Even think about, because they usually do that.
And neither does he. This is just shocking.
Yeah, change up the Blu-ray cover, so up and so forth. Although I will give something I do like. The stars' names are aligned with the stars. You always get that, like, with Fish Called Wanda, where it doesn't. It fucking pisses me off with a passion. Obsessive compulsive disorder activates my system.
Okay. All right, calm down. Which is a hint on the next episode, but we'll come back to that. Look, fabulous. Look, watch both these movies. Obviously, I prefer one to the other, and perhaps you do too. But they're both really, really interesting, and they're both directors really doing interesting things, and both directors, Billy Wilder and Michael Mann, it's worth tracking down a lot of their movies. I love Last of the Mohicans by Michael Mann. I saw that in the cinemas when it came out in, 92?
92.
Stunning.
I haven't gone back to that since then.
It's
one
great.
I
Great
vaguely remember
soundtrack
because
as
it,
well.
like The Keep, it does kind of stand out in his filmography because
The
it's
Keep
not-
is weird, though.
It is. I love The Keep, though. It's got Ian McKellen, it's got Jurgen Prochnow. It's a weird movie. It's a horror. Yeah, no, it's a horror
filmed
movie.
in North Wales.
I need to find a
put that
copy
in.
of it again because that is one I
It
need
is.
to go
It
back
is.
to.
It is. Tangerine Dream to the
Yes,
soundtrack.
Tangerine
You like
Dream
since
of the US Cut of Legend and Risky Business.
So watch that
Thief.
and go and watch. Yeah, watch Thief as well, but go and watch Double Indemnity. Watch Some Like It Hot.
Go watch Manhunter, Heat.
Watch Sunset Boulevard. I might be wrong. Maybe it's brilliant. Yeah. These are good movies. Thank God.
Good movies.
Thank
I know.
God. Finally.
I mean, no Spice Worlds or anything like that.
No.
Just good, critically acclaimed cult and big
nothing recommended
Oscar
by
films.
Daniel Thompson, I think, is the key here.
I don't know.
We will be back very soon for more of this. So thank you, as ever, for joining us. It's certainly a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye for me. Toodaloo. I said goodbye twice, but bonjour.
Don't say it too often.